algo que nos gusta mucho cuando hacemos una foto. Que todo el mundo salga.
Muy buen trabajo. Conseguido, ¿eh?
Nos preocupamos de que no falte nadie. Da igual si alguien le da apuro, porque hacemos lo que sea para convencerle. Incluso no nos importa dar un paso atrás para que entre más gente. Sin embargo, en la foto de la sociedad actual no salimos todos. Falta gente. Faltan más personas que sigan aprendiendo, porque nunca es tarde. Más autónomos que puedan vivir de sus propias ideas. Más mujeres que rompan barreras. Más personas que trabajen en lo que les guste y vivan donde quieran. Y más personas. Por eso seguiremos acercando toda nuestra tecnología para ayudar a que nadie se quede fuera de la foto. Cuanto más cerca estemos, más lejos llegaremos. Telefónica.
Señoras y señores.
Ladies and gentlemen, shareholders, a very good morning to you all. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the trust you have placed in Telefónica, which shows with your presence here, you've shown here with your presence today at this general shareholders meeting, through your in-person attendance in the rooms that have been enabled for this and remotely. We will begin the session. I'd like to inform all the attendees that in accordance to the Corporate Enterprises Act, the Board of Directors has required the presence of the notary of the Notaries Academy in Madrid, José Miguel García Lombardia, who is present on one of the tables on the side of this room on the left of you. The Secretary has the floor. Good morning. Following the legal formalities, we'd like to make clear that in Madrid at 11 in the morning on the 31st of March 2023, at the offices of Telefónica S.A. in Distrito Telefónica, Ronda de la Comunicación, without a number, Central Building Auditorium, the presiding committee of the General Shareholders meeting of Telefónica is meeting with the accordance of the Board of Directors of the 24th of February of 2023. Through relevant information published that same day on the website of the Securities Commission, through adverts published on the 25th of February 2023 in the newspapers El País and Expansión, where all the matters that are put to the approval of the GSM appear. The presiding committee is made up by Mr. José María Álvarez Payete López, the president of the GSM as president of the board of directors, and by myself, Pablo de Carvajal González, secretary of the GSM as secretary of the board of directors, both with positions in force and registered in the Mercantile Registry, and by the directors of the company attending in person this meeting. As for the attendance quorum, and in accordance to the call on the website at 10 o'clock today on the 31st of March 2023, the registration of remote attendees has been closed. Likewise, provisionally, just a few seconds ago, the attendance badges, the counting of attendance badges of shareholders that are attending this GSM in person is being closed. And we can see that the meeting is quorate for the valid constitution of the GSM at second call, so we can begin the session. Without prejudice to the acceptance of attendance and proxy cards of shareholders that are attending this GSM in person up to the limit time established by the regulations of this GSM, i.e. until the round of interventions of shareholders takes place. As for the remote attendances, 12 present in person, 13 shareholders that are in proxy owner of 62,364 shares, and the provisional data of in-person attendance are 5,342 in-person owners of 190,226,601 shares, 24,761 proxies representing 3.167139244 shares. In total, in person and represented 30,105 shareholders that are owners of 3.357,365,845 shares, of which they represent 58.13% of the share capital of the company Telefónica SA. The share capital of the company is of 5,775,237,554 euros, with an equal number of shares. So therefore, the meeting is quorate for the valid constitution of this GSM at second call to debate on all the matters that have been included on the agenda. Seeing the information provided by the Secretary, I declare the meeting is quorate for the second call of this General Shareholders meeting. The Notary has the floor. Thank you, President. Ladies and gentlemen shareholders, in compliance with what is established in mercantile legislation, I'd like to ask attendees if they wish to express reservations or protests with regards to the number of members attendant and the capital present and represented. If there were any, you can communicate this to me now. Likewise, the shareholders who attend remotely can do so through the IT application called Participation Platform. We will wait a few seconds. There are no reservations expressed. Thank you. Thank you very much. As there are no reservations to the matter put forward by the notary, I declare this meeting quorate of the General Shareholders meeting for Telefónica Limited at second call to deal with all the matters that are on the agenda. The Secretary has the floor again. In order to carry out the GSM, the shareholders that attend this meeting in person and who would wish to request the floor and wish information or clarification on the matters that are included on the agenda or on information accessible to the public facilitated by the company to the Spanish Securities Commission since the last GSM was held on the 8th of April 2022, or with regards to the auditor's report, or who wish to propose resolutions, they can go to the tables who deal with the shareholders, which are located on the sides of the two rooms where the GSM is being carried out. On these tables, you tell them what your identity and number of shares are that you represent or that you are owners of. Following this, the presiding committee will establish the order that you can speak in. If you wish your intervention to be included in the minutes of the GSM, please hand over the written text of your comments to the people who are with the notary at this table that deals with shareholders. The shareholders who are attending remotely have been able to intervene from the registration time on the participation platform through the form that is provided for this. Likewise, it is possible to send a written question up until the President has declared the meeting quorate. In addition, the resolutions that the board is putting for your approval can be found in the documentation that you have had at your disposal since the call of the meeting, both on the company's website and at the headquarters of the company. We'd like to remind shareholders who are attending the meeting remotely that they have at their disposal on the participation platform the full text of the proposed resolutions that are being put to the vote. Likewise, in accordance with the standards and regulations in force, this GSM should be informed on the following matters. Firstly, we need to inform on the annual corporate governance report corresponding to the financial year 2022, drawn up in accordance to the standards and regulations drawn up by the Stock Exchange Commission, and that has been included in the management reports that are with the yearly annual accounts of Telefónica and those of its consolidated group corresponding to the financial year 2022. The said annual corporate governance report, where the company informs in a detailed manner with regards to different matters to do with corporate governance, was registered on the 23rd of February 2023 at the Stock Exchange Commission, and this is available on the company's website. As for the compliance with the recommendations of the Code of Good Governance and following the President's indications, I can inform you that as it's stipulated in the annual corporate governance report corresponding to 2022, Telefónica complies with almost all recommendations. As for the recommendations that it partially complies with, I can say the following. Firstly, the limitation of the maximum number of votes that a single shareholder can issue, 10% of the share capital under Article 26 of the bylaws, constitutes an efficient tool to protect the interests of all minority shareholders. In addition, as for the number of women directors, I can point out that the selection of new candidates to cover vacancies that come about for new positions of directors and board members will continue searching for women that meet the professional profile required to increase gender diversity on the board. Likewise, as for the committees of the board in the Appointments, Remunerations and Good Governance Committee, it has not been considered to have another committee in order to be more efficient. Also, the Audit and Control Committees and Appointments, Remunerations and Good Governance Committee are chaired by independent directors in accordance with what is foreseen in legal terms. The other committees that have competences in matters related to the company's business and management matters, it has been considered timely for proprietary directors and external directors to be part of these committees to contribute their technical and specific knowledge. Also, in terms of other matters to do with remuneration, we need to point out the Appointments, Remunerations and Good Governance Committee has the power to propose to the Board of Directors the cancellation of the payment of variable remuneration when said payment has not met the conditions established for this. All of this in the terms included in the remunerations policy of directors. Also in the yearly report on remunerations, there's a list of all the contracts of executive directors and covering pay and compensation as part of the contracts in place before they were appointed executive directors. In addition, as for the yearly report on directors of Telefónica corresponding to the financial year 2022, I can inform you that the Board of Directors approved in its session on the 22nd of February 2023, in accordance to the proposal made by the Appointments, Remunerations and Good Governance Committee, which was registered also on the 23rd of February of 2023 at the Securities Commission and is available from that date on the company's website. Finally, I'd like to communicate that on the website, you shareholders will find the full text of the report that the President will present to this GSM. As for the voting process, the proposed resolutions that are put forward, in order for the public requests for representation to be valid, those shareholders that may have a conflict of interest will exercise their vote in accordance with the instructions given by the represented shareholder. If the represented shareholder has not given precise instructions or these were wrong, therefore this director will not be able to exercise the vote of the shares represented by them, corresponding to the Secretary of the GSM to exercise the vote on said shares. Those shareholders that attend this GSM in person and wish to vote against or abstain in terms of any of the proposed resolutions on the agenda will be able to inform at the tables of the notary of this fact. Favorable votes to the proposed resolutions will be from those shareholders will be considered favorable if the shareholders have not said anything to the contrary to the notary. Likewise, and in accordance with the advert of the call for the meeting and on the corporate website, the shareholders or their proxies who attend this GSM remotely can issue their vote on the resolutions included in the agenda from the time the President has declared the meeting quorate. In this case, the voting process will end once the voting of the proposed resolution begins and once the summary of said proposed resolution has been read out. As for the proposed resolutions that have been included on the agenda according to the GSM's regulation, it will not be necessary to read all of these in detail if the texts have been provided to shareholders at the beginning of the GSM, as has been this case. The said proposed resolutions have been included in the remote attendance application. In order to make this event more agile, we will just underline the most important things with regards to these proposed resolutions. The text that you can see on the screen and that the shareholders who are attending remotely can see through the participation platform will be included in the minutes of this GSM. Firstly, approval of the annual accounts and of the management report of both Telefónica S.A. and its consolidated group of companies for fiscal year 2022. And this item of the agenda, we are putting forward the following proposed resolutions. 1.1, approval of the annual accounts of the management report of both Telefónica S.A. and its consolidated group of companies for fiscal year 2022. It's proposed to approve the individual annual accounts, balance sheet, income statement, statement of changes in shareholders' equity, cash flow, and the consolidated group corresponding to the financial year 2022 as they were filed by the Board of Directors in its meeting on the 22nd of February 2023. 1.2, approval of the statement of non-financial information of the consolidated group of companies, and it's to approve the statement of non-financial information of the consolidated group of companies led by Telefónica S.A. for the fiscal year 2022 included in the consolidated management report of Telefónica and its group of companies for such fiscal year, and specifically the information regarding climate change and the decarbonization targets included in section 2.2 of the report. The financial and non-financial information has been audited by PricewaterhouseCoopers. 1.3, approval of the management of the Board of Directors of Telefónica S.A. Likewise, it is to approve the corporate management of the Board of Directors of Telefónica during the fiscal year 2022. Second, approval of the proposed allocation of the results. To approve the following proposed allocation of the profits losses of Telefónica S.A. for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2022 to offset the negative result obtained by Telefónica. Third, re-election of the auditors for 2023. In this third point of the agenda, we propose, in accordance with the proposal made by the Audit and Control Committee and taken on by the Board of Directors, the re-election as the auditor of the accounts and its consolidated group for the financial year 2023, PricewaterhouseCoopers Auditors S.L. Fourth, reduction of the share capital through the amortization of treasury stock with giving a new wording to the 6th article of the bylaws relating to share capital. In this fourth point of the agenda, we propose the reduction of share capital of the company by 24,709,409 euros through the amortization of 24,779,409 shares that are in treasury stock currently that represent 0.43% of the share capital of the company. This reduction in capital will be carried out against the reserves of free disposal for an allocation of a reserve of capital allocated for a nominal value of which it will only be possible to avail of them through the same requirements that are required for reduction of share capital in accordance with what is established in the Corporate Enterprises Act. There will be no right to opposition with regards to the reduction in share capital. Fifth, written remuneration to shareholders. In this fifth point on the agenda, we propose to distribute dividends in cash with a charge to unrestricted reserves of 0.30 euros per share, payable in 2 tranches on the 15th of June 2023, and the second payment for the second amount on the 14th of December 2023 for the same amount. 6. Authorization for the acquisition of own shares directly or through group companies. And this 6th point on the item on the agenda, we propose the GSM, the acquisition through Telefónica SA directly or through any of its subsidiaries, own shares through purchase, exchange, or other legal title. The minimum acquisition price of the consideration will correspond to the par value of own shares acquired, and the maximum acquisition price or the maximum value of the consideration will be equal to the listing price of the own shares acquired on an official secondary market at the time of acquisition. Said authorization is granted for a period of 5 years from the date of this meeting and is expressly subject to the limitation that the par value of the own shares directly or indirectly acquired pursuant to this authorization, together with the value of the shares already held by Telefónica SA and all of its subsidiaries, may not at any time exceed the maximum amount permitted by law from time to time, and that the restrictions on the acquisition of own shares established by the regulatory authorities of the markets in which Telefónica SA shares are admitted to trading must be complied with. It is expressly noted that the authorization granted to acquire own shares may be used in whole or in part to acquire shares of Telefónica SA that Telefónica must deliver or transfer to board members or employees of the company or of companies in the group, either directly or as a result of the exercise of the option right owned thereby, all within the framework of duly authorized compensation systems linked to the listing price of the company's shares. 7th, the approval of the remunerations policy of directors in Telefónica SA. And this 7th point, we propose to approve the directors' remuneration policy of Telefónica SA that will come into force of the date of approval of this GSM and will be applied for the following 3 financial years, 2024, 2025, and 2026. 8th, proposal regarding item 8 on the agenda, delegation of powers to formalize the resolutions adopted by the general shareholders meeting, to authorize the chief operating officer, the secretary of the board of directors, and the deputy secretary of the board of directors, such that without prejudice to any other delegations included in the foregoing resolution, any existing powers of attorney to convert resolutions into public instruments. 9th, proposal regarding item 9 on the agenda, consultative vote on 2022 annual report on director remuneration. This is for the remuneration of directors corresponding to the fiscal year 2022. So now that we have concluded the reading of the resolutions, the proposed resolutions, the President will put forward his report to this GSM.
Vivimos tiempos de incertidumbre. El Brexit, la pandemia, la guerra de Ucrania. No siempre es fácil ser optimistas y confiar en el futuro. Pero lo superaremos. Ya lo hemos hecho antes. En Telefónica cumplimos ahora 99 años porque hemos sabido encontrar oportunidades en cada desafío. Casi un siglo entero en el que hemos mostrado nuestro espíritu innovador y nuestra capacidad de transformación. Y siempre con un objetivo: situar a nuestros clientes, accionistas y empleados en el centro de nuestra estrategia. Estamos en una nueva era digital y necesitamos un nuevo liderazgo que ayude a superar la incertidumbre e inspirar confianza.
Telefónica ganó en 2022. Telefónica crece.
En 2022, Telefónica ha crecido en todos los mercados en los que opera y ha cumplido con creces todos sus objetivos financieros. Hemos aumentado nuestros ingresos hasta alcanzar casi los 40.000 millones de euros. Hemos obtenido un beneficio neto superior a los 2.000 millones de euros. Hemos generado una caja de más de 4.500 millones de euros, con un flujo de caja por acción de 0,80 euros, que cubre holgadamente el dividendo de 0,30 euros. Hemos fortalecido nuestra posición financiera, con más del 80% de la deuda anclada a tipos fijos. Telefónica también ha progresado en su transformación mediante la ejecución constante de la hoja de ruta establecida en 2019. Durante el último año, hemos crecido y hemos reforzado nuestra posición en nuestros 4 mercados principales: España, Brasil, Alemania y Reino Unido. Telefónica Tech ha aumentado sus ingresos un 57%, hasta los 1.500 millones de euros. Telefónica Infra se ha consolidado como uno de los mayores vehículos de infraestructuras de telecomunicaciones del mundo. En Hispanoamérica, nuestro nuevo modelo operativo nos está permitiendo obtener un crecimiento sostenible. También hemos reforzado nuestro liderazgo en financiación ESG y hemos incrementado el uso de energía renovable, que ya alcanza el 100% en Europa, Brasil, Chile y Perú. Telefónica ha estado al lado de las personas. Los empleados y los voluntarios de Telefónica y su fundación se han volcado con el pueblo de Ucrania y Turquía cuando más lo han necesitado. Telefónica crece, y cuando crece, también lo hace todo lo que está a su alrededor. Crecen los países, las empresas, pero sobre todo, crece la vida de las personas. Todo lo que hacemos tiene un reflejo en la sociedad. Está en nuestro ADN, es nuestra razón de ser. Merecemos un ecosistema de conectividad más justo y equilibrado, en el que todos contribuyan a una parte del esfuerzo. Esa colaboración nos hará más fuertes a todos. Europa ya ha dado un primer y crucial paso para hacerlo posible. Bajo la presidencia de Telefónica, la GSMA ha renovado su liderazgo estratégico global con el lanzamiento de Open Gateway, una plataforma que une a las empresas de telecomunicaciones, las grandes tecnológicas y los desarrolladores para crear juntos un futuro digital lleno de oportunidades.
Y acabamos de conocer que Telefónica ganó en 2022 más de 2.000 millones de euros.
Telefónica ganó el año pasado 2.011 millones de euros.
Telefónica presenta sus resultados, la compañía crece en todo el mundo.
Telefónica crece en todo el mundo.
Keeps those words in mind. Fair share.
El tiempo nos sigue acercando al lugar donde queremos estar. Es tiempo de Telefónica. Es nuestro tiempo.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, shareholders. 384 days left. 384 days left to celebrate the first 100 years of life of our company. 384 days that we have to take advantage of to celebrate those 100 years as our history demands. For a company that's prepared to deal with the next 100 years, a company that knows how to honor its past and mark its future, because it's time, it's Telefónica's time, it's our time. We've been working for 7 years and working to create this new company, imagining how the pioneers who created Telefónica did it, knowing that through technology, we can have a more human world connecting the lives of people. We imagine a different company, a new company at the vanguard of innovation, able to revolutionize our sector. A company with latest generation networks, radically new networks where artificial intelligence will begin to provide us with unreachable capacities up until now, and a team of people who are ready for this new mission. We imagine this new company, and at the same time that we built it, we knew we had to prepare ourselves to say goodbye to the old networks, the copper, 2G and 3G networks. Say goodbye with honor to a company that has brought us so much and was at the vanguard at that time in its society. Our company is coming close to its 100-year anniversary, but it's not getting old. Over the last 7 years, we've increased our customer base, and we're over 383 million now. We've increased satisfaction to record levels. We've transformed our revenues to be more relevant. Now 73% come from broadband and digital services compared to 46% back in 2015. These revenues come from the new world. We've built more than 4 million kilometers of fiber, like 5 trips back and forth to the moon, 115,000 base stations of 4 and 5G, and our networks have transported 128 terabytes of data, equivalent to thousands of hours of video. We're able to process 50 petaflops. It's like the 15 most powerful supercomputers, and we've put aside tons and tons of copper, and we're close to 50% of our 2G, 3G, and 700 legacy systems, because it's so important to create the new and know how to turn off our old legacy equipment. We've trained thousands of people for this new world, and we've invested 28 billion hours in training our people. These are 33 centuries of training. We've decreased our emissions by 80%, increased diversity of our team, doubling the number of women on our board, and reaching 39% on our staff now of women. Over these 7 years, we've invested more than 55 billion euros, generating more than 21,000 in net profit and more than 32 billion in free cash flow. We've also devoted 7.2 billion euros to pay our shareholders, increased our treasury stock, and we've reduced our net debt in more than 23 billion. We've carried out corporate operations for 81 billion euros, including the biggest operation of our history, the merger of O2 and Virgin Media in the UK. And that was during the confinement, something that never had been done before. We've launched Telefónica Tech and Telefónica Infra, new pioneer units at the vanguard, giving us growth in our positioning. The Telefónica Foundation has invested more than 600 billion in its social programs, improving the lives of 105,000 people, including 38 million children, through their education programs, especially Pro Futuro, which we have the collaboration of the Caixa Bank. We've launched debates that will accompany this new world, leading the GSMA for the first time in our history and setting the stage for the future of our sector. And above all, we've complied with our promises. We've complied with our responsibility of always, even under exceptional circumstances like the pandemic, Telefónica and its volunteers have helped to deal with all of the world's catastrophes, including Ukraine, Turkey, and Syria. We've complied with all of the commitments that we've acquired with the markets. We've complied with our obligations by paying taxes more than 67 billion euros during this period that goes back to society. We've complied despite many difficult times, and we've complied because Telefónica always complies. It's not easy, but we did it. Summing up, we prepared ourselves for our 100-year anniversary with the basis necessary to refound our company and look towards the future, but we still have work to do. These 384 days that we have to take advantage of and that we need to go even further. This GSM is the right time to set the stage to guarantee finalizing our transformation. I want to share with you three main messages. The first is thank you. Thank you to all people in Telefónica who have committed with our transformation and that work excited and with ambition to change and to change our company in the vanguard. Thank you to our 384 million customers who honor us with their trust and trust us with their communications. Our networks are not gigas or megas. It's the lives of people. And very especially, thank you to all of you, the shareholders of our company, that have been with us in this transformation process in a road that was not simple, but has been necessary and has been worth it. The second message is commitment. Commitment from all people who work in Telefónica to take advantage of these 384 days and to complete our process of change and to continue complying with our objectives and ambitions to make Telefónica to continue to grow in revenues as we have over the last 4 years. And reaching that Germany, Brazil, and the UK continue to grow, to continue controlling our exposure in Latin America and transforming their operations, and to continue growing in double digits in Telefónica Tech and to reflect its value in our share price, and to continue creating value and being pioneers in the infrastructure models through Telefónica Infra, and to continue moving forward in our operational model, getting us to grow in revenues, OIBDA, and great in investment, controlled investment, and with a good policy of remuneration for our shareholders, and lead the transformation of our sector at the head of the GSMA and the Open Gateway, and the revolution of the telecommunications network through supercomputers with things that are difficult to imagine now, that provide our customers with products and services that will change the lives of people, companies, and governments. In saying goodbye, we're closing the networks that cannot continue our technological evolution. We're the first to turn off our copper network, and we cannot regulate this company with the roles, with the rules, old rules. Right now, we need to. The old companies don't exist anymore. We're a new company. What we're imagining now are communication networks. It's much more than communication networks. We've built something different now, and we can't be regulated with the old rules. A new world requires new rules, rules that get the best out of all players, that strike a balance on the playing field, that foster collaboration in this new world, rules that incentivize the responsible and equal use of these new networks. No one would understand that 60% of the capacity of highways, water, and so forth were only used by 6 users, leaving every 60%, while the other 40% were left without any. We're building these networks for everyone, not just for a few. So it's time to have an equal sharing out of the responsibility of these networks. Our commitment is also to create a new collaboration network, a new network that is fair and balanced through cloud computing, this new world and this framework for the 21st century. And the third message is an invitation to our people, to our customers, to our shareholders, and to the society at large. Invitation to a new company that has gone back to growth in customers and revenues and profitability, with a better balance sheet, with vanguard networks that are supercomputers connected together and to the cloud. A team with new talent and creating new capacities, a new relationship between our customers and the world of innovation. A world where we're able to offer solutions to the legitimate demand of strategic autonomy of Europe and Latin America in a world of blocks, a world where we hopefully will see the end of the war in Ukraine, which is bringing tragedy and suffering to millions of people, where Europe takes its rightful place and takes advantage of the opportunity of the new Web3 for new networks and competes for the leadership in innovation and technology. A Europe that recovers its digital autonomy. A world where collaboration is the solution for the uncertainties, and collaboration between the land and the cloud, and those that can create products and services on these networks, and an invitation to a new company that has created all of this effort and so much here to defend. And so the stage is set for what we can imagine, and despite all of the difficulties, we are moving forward in this direction, in a direction that not many people could see, but Telefónica has built upon that. It's not been easy, but it has been worthwhile. Our history obliged us to be at the height of, at the level of this type of change, and our company will always be a company of people, for people, a company that uses technology because it wants to make a more human world, connecting the lives of people. This was what we are, and what we were, what we are, and what we will be. It's Telefónica's time. It's our time. That's why I reiterate, with these 384 days left for our 100-year anniversary, and to make our company younger than ever, my thanks, my commitment, and my excitement and invitation for the next 100 years. Thanks very much for your trust and attention.
Tenemos ya los datos definidos.
We have the final data of the attendance numbers of this current GSM that has been carried out by an external company to the company, Indra Limited, which is prestigious and that has done the analysis of the data of the in-person attendance at this meeting and also the remote attendance and proxies. And this is available to this information to the shareholders who wish to analyze this and who has given us the final data that gives us the following data. The final data of attendance by remotely that we've seen is 12 shareholders in person, owners of 50,805 shares, 13 shareholders represented owning 62,364 shares. And the final data of in-person attendance are 5,382 shareholders present, owners of 191,671,000 shares, 24,760 shareholders represented, owners of 3,177,089,969 shares. As total, therefore, in-person or represented shareholders, there are 30,177,000 shareholders that are owners of 3,368,000 million, representing 58.14% of the share capital of the company. Next, we give the floor to the shareholders who have requested the floor. I give the floor to the Secretary to order the interventions. Thank you, President. Firstly, and in accordance with what was announced in the call for this GSM, the shareholders or their proxies who, in exercising their rights, have wished to intervene at this GSM, either remotely or, in their case, to request information or clarification on any items on the agenda or to ask for clarifications on information accessible to the public that the company may have provided to the Stock Exchange Commission since the holding of the last GSM, or with regards to the auditor's report, or to make proposals in those cases allowed for by the law. They have been able to do this since they registered in the remote attendance application, including the participation platform, through the form enabled for interventions. Likewise, remote attendees have been able to send in writing questions or proposals up until the President declared the meeting quorate for this GSM. Likewise, shareholders or their proxies who attend remotely have been able to say that they want their intervention to appear in the minutes. Secondly, as for the shareholders who attend this AGM in person and who have requested the right to intervene, we would request that, in all due respect to other shareholders present, and taking into account experience from previous years and the large number of interventions, to limit their speeches to a maximum of 5 minutes. For this purpose, after the 5 minutes have elapsed, the shareholders will be warned that they have to conclude. If they do not conclude their speech, they will be informed that their turn is over and the next shareholder will be given the floor. Likewise, I'd like to remind you that this committee can shorten the speeches or interventions if the subject is not included on the items of the agenda and if it has nothing to do with information accessible to the public provided by the company to the Stock Exchange Commission, and since the holding of the last GSM held on the 8th of April 2022, or if the subject has been sufficiently debated upon. Information and clarifications will be provided where possible with regards to any questions put forward. Any requests for information that cannot be dealt with at the GSM will be replied to within 7 days after this GSM is over. Those shareholders attending remotely, Mr. José Margajo García, representing Confidetel, and Mr. Santiago González Carrero, representing the elderly group of Telefónica, have expressed their wish to intervene by means of the channels enabled for this. The requests for information that said shareholders have put forward focus mainly on the following matters: share plans and pensions for former employees, the social work carried out by Telefónica and its foundation, the labor relations with employees, management on infrastructures and business activities of the Telefónica group in some countries, both in Spain as well as in some Hispam countries that Telefónica is present in. The round of interventions of the shareholders that are in person in this room begins. Mr. Ramón Hidalgo Gervais has the floor.
Buenos días.
Good morning. I wanted to ask the following question. Recently, we've seen that the main telecom operators are making a call to big platforms of content to contribute to the cost of the digital infrastructure in Europe, which provides their services, because the current situation is not sustainable for the necessary investment in digital infrastructure in Europe. Therefore, in this fair share, the consultation launched by the Commission, the technological companies, they are expected to contribute to make the investment of the maintenance of networks sustainable. Are they called upon to make these networks sustainable? Thank you very much, Ramon. The next question is from Carlos Antonio Gutierrez Pérez. Good morning, everyone. Mr. Chairman, you told us extraordinary things, magnificent things from Telefónica. But what I want to tell you is that since you arrived up until now, and I can show you the differences in figures and revenues, net income, in 2016 and 2017, up until 2022, have decreased by 23% in 2016 and 23.10% in 2017. EBITDA by 14.6% less in 2016 and 20.60% less in 2018. And free cash flow, there's a positive data, 4.3% or 4.8% more in 2016, but that was due, you weren't there in that first quarter, and it's been negative 7.70% in 2017. So the result of the fiscal year, 31% less compared to 2017. And net debt, you decreased it by 40-some% compared from 2016%, 30-some% compared to 2017. The debt that you said was the result that the share price was losing value. And where this has been proven that that's not the case, it went down by 45%, and the share price continues to go down in the Securities Commission. And this, it's your management. So the share price has gone down by 61% compared to 2016 and 58% compared to 2017. And the dividend is 60% from 0.65, and now it's at 0.30. There are companies with a lot of debt. French Telecom, it has a huge debt and gives its shareholders 0.90 cents and maintains the share price at 22 euros. So this competitiveness, Mr. Chairman, except in Brazil, has gone down everywhere. 6.4% in fixed access, and 4.7% in television. Telefónica Spain has lost 880 million. And I don't know if that's because of that company that was constituted, that fiber company, to expand the network in La Mancha and Jaén. I don't know if that is what is making us lose that money in Telefónica Spain. I just don't know. And fixed remuneration, I think that here there's a lot of people that are responsible, like myself. And we've felt proud when we do management that benefits our company economically or socially. But with the applause of our shareholders and the recognition of the people who have benefited from this. You? No, it seems like we're paying you. And then when you get, you're always asking for a new salary. That's not ethical. I'm asking that you return that salary, you as the CEO, and those that have received, I think it was 22 million euros that have been shared out, so that Telefónica Spain would lose 22 million less. Please, I think that you need to return that, and the salaries of the board members and yourselves. I propose that they don't go up until the share price goes up to 832. In the meantime, I think the salary should be frozen. And I'll finish. And in these data, I'm asking for a vote for your dismissal. That's all. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Now, Raúl Morentín Ramírez has the floor.
Hola, ¿qué hay? Buenos días a todos.
Good morning, everyone. Telefónica, I think, is not being transparent, completely opaque. For the last month and a half and 2 months, I've been asking for information to Telefónica, which is very important for shareholders and for their approval of the annual accounts. And today, I still have not received information over and above the published information at the Securities Commission. And the information requested is very important because it has an impact on what we're going to pay in taxes. Therefore, I suggest and I plead to not oblige me to take measures so that within 7 days maximum, as you said, you provide us information about the amounts that I requested. That's mainly my point. In terms of the intervention of the previous shareholder, I apologize, but I don't agree, because Telefónica today is coming back, and the whole backpack that Telefónica has from Mr. Alerta in the past and the past managers of the company, it's resurging now. And that's everything. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Mr. Morentín. Now, Marta Litian Crespo has the floor. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and everyone present. I would like to thank you for you and your team has been doing to make Telefónica a leading company, as was shown in the past Mobile World Congress. In the Mobile World Congress, we saw the GSMA presentation, the Open Gateway, that brings telecom companies, the big technology companies, to create the digital future. And I could give you more details on that and the indications that, could give us more information on the indications that Telefónica has in that sense.
Señora Guitián, tiene la palabra la...
And now we have the representative of the banks and insurance companies. You have the floor, sir. On behalf of Ari Kai and representing the small shareholders and savers, in 2022 you announced a rise in the tariff due to inflation. However, you don't need any pretext to raise your fees, as has been shown continuously for years now, without improving better conditions in your services or providing these improvements. How is Telefónica going to survive doing this? Probably you didn't realize this, but inflation is changing a lot of the consumers' habits, and these types of costs means that many households are reducing their bundles so that they can increase their disposable income. And some competitors of yours are taking away your customers. What are you going to do to keep your customers? Over the last year, we've seen consumers making complaints that haven't been answered properly. Movistar Money, for example, we think that some of those actions were just outlandish, and the price of basic products and loans going through economic difficulties could expose them to greater debt. And when you talk about these consumer loans, these were issued under false pretext. Some of these loans, so consumers who will get these funds that above their ability to pay them back is not correct. The official statistics show that the company is not going well. You have all of the claims on fixed and mobile services, and so the services provided are not up to grade, and the company is more vulnerable due to this. And this increase in rates is very relevant, bearing in mind the indebtedness that the company holds. What measures does Telefónica propose to prevent increased debt, and do you think it's necessary to continue investing your profits to implement measures to improve the environment and fostering the sustainability of the product and the corporate strategy, taking advantage of the profits from digitization to reduce emissions? We believe that Telefónica has the capacity and resources and structure to be relevant and really bring about change, bearing in mind that Europe's sustainability and the environment are a market that is growing, but these practices need to be implemented. Lastly, Telefónica should improve the transparency of its communication with shareholders. Although we do have these annual reports and other documents, it's complicated sometimes to know the strategic lines of the company and participate in decision-taking. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Now, Soledad Guadalupe Fernandez Franco has the floor. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to congratulate you for your excellent management at Telefónica. In terms, I would like to ask you about the current situation of the sector, of the telecom sector in Europe. The telecom sector in Europe is undergoing a different situation over the past several years compared to other markets like the United States and China, due to greater fragmentation of the market and lower return. So I would like to ask you, what is your evaluation and opinion about the consolidation between the market in Europe, and if you're interested in participating in that consolidation process? Also, I want to know if you can say a few words about the recent statement made by Mr. Breton about cross-border transactions. Lastly, if you could inform us about the expectations of the joint venture between Orange and Mas Mobile. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Carlos Gutierrez has requested in exercise of his right for the board to consider the chairman,
the shareholders can take over these as from this time onwards and until the president and the managing director were to answer all the matters put forward by the shareholders. In relation to this, and as is stipulated in the regulations of the GSM, votes contrary to the resolutions that are not included in the agenda, and those shareholders who have expressly not voted in favor of these or who do not say that they're abstaining are considered. So only if you want to vote in favor of or abstain with regards to any of the resolutions not included in the agenda, such as these, should do so expressly at the tables where the notary is, or by means of the remote attendance application in the section enabled for this. The notary will include this in the minutes of the GSM.
A continuación pasamos a responder a las cuestiones planteadas.
I'm now going to respond to the questions. Now, with respect to the question on Jose, about the question about Telatel, thank you for your words, first of all. Is your statement, we're very proud to have associations like yours. That's an important part of our company and the history of our company, and you are a company that for a company that's almost 100 years old. And we transmitted this information to our different departments. Now, regarding to your request about collaboration, we are sensitive to this situation that you said, and we need to respect the judicial decisions. In terms of the workers, that they can go to the monitoring committees that regulate each one of the plans, because these are the competent bodies to analyze all of these issues that could, in the individual suspension of labor contracts. Now, in terms of the question by Carlos Antonio Gutierrez Perez, I could say that in November 2019, we announced a path that was based on 5 strategies in our main markets to reduce the capital employed, to promote opportunities of growth through the launch of Telefónica Tech and Telefónica Infra, and to come up with a new operational model. Up until now, despite the challenges that we've met with, we've executed our plan and we've met our objectives, and all with an approach to create value for shareholders. The valuation of the company is part of the transformation undergoing the telecom sector in Europe, and we no longer sell voice, but rather data. This has taken time to go back to growth. And the results are there, though, and the big one is that we're growing in revenues, and revenues have been growing. And the networks are out, there's new capacities, and now is the time to change regulation. This Telefonica is Telefonica that is stronger, the sector is stronger, and there are new challenges, and the main parameters of the company with better regulatory perspectives, things will improve for the company. Now, in terms of the question by Maria Marta Gaitan Crespo, with respect to Open Gateway. Telecom companies have proven to be crucial at times, special times like the pandemic. And this pandemic, and especially confinement, accelerated the development of the digital world. Things that we thought would happen in 5 years are happening now, and we see several different trends at the same time. Computation, the world of the network, Web3, I should say, the trend of our own fiber networks and 5G networks, and trends in the processing and the capacities of computers. Together, all this has happened together, and what we're rolling out now are not telecom networks. It's much stronger. These are supercomputers. The Open Gateway initiative has the objective of interconnecting these supercomputers, which are the new networks, and open up standard connections in all of the sector called APIs with the cloud, and to make it possible for all these new capacities of the network are available, and we can monetize those new elements of the network. This is a paradigm change. It's the first time in 37 years that the GSMA has reformulated itself, and we're convinced that this could give rise to a new era of innovation, but also in revenue growth for telecom operators. I was very happy to go further into this over in the next several days if you want to learn more, but there are 21 operators that have signed this partnership, and more are coming on board. That covers more than 380 million customers, and we've already started to develop the first APIs. And in terms of the question by the Adikai Association, I'll give the floor to our CEO. In terms of the intervention by Edikai on the price hike in Spain, the update of price was done in 2023 in line with the market. Our customers value our greater quality, as shown in the number of customers that have not left the company. We have fewer people abandoning the company. We have the lowest abandonment in Spain. Movistar Money, Telefonica continues to working in diversifying its businesses, looking always, helping to meet people to meet their needs in financial, communication, or other health needs. And personal loans is part of this task of Telefonica. In terms of claims in Spain, Movistar ended with 2022 with a reduction in the number of claims made by its customers by 28% in mobile and 14% in fixed since the beginning of the year, according to the data reported by the operators to the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Digital Transformation. In terms of the question about the group, especially about the debt strategy, we maintain a proactive approach. And we're only strictly using capital to create value and make us a more sustainable company for the future. To reduce emissions and favor the environment, Telefonica, in its strategy, has included sustainability, the main aspects of sustainability based on the principles of responsible business. So we continue to extend our 5G network to offer digital solutions that help society to decarbonize. We've been the first telco with zero emission objectives, and we've decreased by 80% our emissions in the past 7 years. And thanks to those efforts against climate change and CO2, we continue on the list of top companies. And in terms of telematic communications, as you saw in the announcement to this GSM, the shareholders that wanted to could come in person to the GSM. Therefore, it is a hybrid GSM. In terms of the remuneration policy, we have a constant and transparent dialogue with our shareholders to know their opinion about our remuneration policy and value any changes that may need to be made. So we are presenting our GSM 2023, a new remuneration policy, which will enter into force on the same date. Continuing with the response regarding the share price, the whole telecom sector in Europe has been affected by the transformation that we talked about before. It's one of the sectors where this had the worst performance in the stock market due to excessive regulation and artificial competition in the rollout of new networks that is affecting revenues and cash flow. As I mentioned before, we're starting to see the fruits of our strategy that we started in 2019, and we've started to grow again. So this Telefonica is a stronger Telefonica. The sector is now stronger, and there are new open debates regarding investment in growth. Since November of 2019, we've executed this route that I mentioned before, and therefore, despite the challenges, we've executed our plan, prioritizing investment, and we've met all of our financial objectives for 2022. Remember that we presented on the same day that the war in Ukraine was declared, and the share price went up in the first half of the year. Now, with respect to the question by Doña Soledad Guadalupe Fernandez Franco, Europe is clearly a fragmented market, and we don't think it makes sense what is happening now in Europe. There are more than 400 telecom operators compared to the 4 in the United States and the 3 that exist in China. A mobile operator in Europe covers 5 million people, much lower than 107 million people that covers an American operator. The capacity for investment has been affected by this fragmentation, regulation, consolidation, inflation, and high cost of financing. We're convinced that Europe needs to get back its sovereignty and has to invest in key infrastructure like fiber and align regulation with the objectives of industrial objectives. In this 21st century, we need new rules that are not in greater symmetry with other regions. We believe that cross-border consolidation is not the most efficient because the assignment of spectrum and the networks and other things are national, and regulation is national. Therefore, many of the synergies produced in consolidation cannot be achieved with cross-border operations. That's why we think it's much more important to have consolidation between operators in the same national markets to generate market structures that helps investments where operators have the sufficient scale to be sustainable and have greater ability to invest. In terms of Orange and MásMóvil, we believe that this is good news, and this is a transaction that will be emblematic for the rest of Europe. We've always said that we favor consolidation within the market, and so this merger happens in the Spanish market, which is very competitive with intense competition in infrastructure and prices. It has some of the lowest prices in Europe. Therefore, our position should be approved without remedies or very small remedies. This will be a change in the competition authorities that are allowing for this structure. The current situation is not sustainable because return on capital employed in Europe is below the cost of the capital. And this is not good for the rollout of last generation networks. It doesn't seem feasible that the European Commission will follow. We believe that in Brussels, the things will continue in phase 2, and we'll have a final decision at the end of this year, at the beginning of next year.
With regards to the intervention of Mr. Moretinos, I'll just remind you that in accordance to what is in the regulations in force, the information that he requested has been provided in terms of the matter he brought up in his intervention.
And the annual individual and consolidated accounts of Telefónica for 2022 are available on the corporate webpage and that were sent in paper, have all of the tax information, especially in note 17. This is the note 25 about the current situation, the consolidated situation that was required to understand those annual accounts. Also, in terms of the historical information in the corporate webpage of Telefónica SA, you have all of the annual and individual and consolidated accounts of Telefónica SA and its consolidated group since 2003, with all of the tax information legally required for each fiscal year. Thank you very much.
Now that the interventions are over, we have to put the proposed resolutions for the approval of the GSM. The Secretary has the floor. Now that the answers to the questions put forward by the shareholders have finalized, and in accordance with what has been said before, the voting by remote attendees has finalized since the meeting was declared quorum. With regards to the proposed resolutions included in the agenda, the voting procedure has been completed in terms of the proposals not included in the agenda. So as a result of this, it is a pleasure to inform you that with the votes from proxies and distance votes received before this GCM, and regardless of the votes in favour, against, and abstentions that were formulated by shareholders or their proxies who have attended this GSM in the manner referred to before, there is a sufficient majority in each of the items of the agenda to approve all the proposed resolutions formulated by the board submitted to this GSM for approval. So all of the items on the agenda have been approved. Likewise, with the proposed resolution not included on the agenda, based on the information that the presiding committee has, we can communicate to the shareholders that it has been rejected by sufficient majority of votes. Without prejudice to the interior, the final data with regards to the voting will be published on the corporate website of the company. The notary will proceed to authorize the minutes of the current GSM meeting according to the legal requirements in force. Those shareholders who are interested in reading these minutes will be able to request this at the office of the Telefónica shareholders, and they will have to they will be handed a photocopy of the minutes of the GSM. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, shareholders.